You're listening to Well, I Laughed, Part 1 of Ghosted, Finding Agatha Christie.
At least once, I'm going to restart that. Every week, I come home from work on Friday, and I just go raccoon on my fridge for like 21 and a half minutes. And then I like nestle up on my couch with all my blinds open because it's like a beautiful evening. And then I just let God decide when I'm going to wake up, which is usually between like 7 and 7:15. And now I get to decide what kind of evening I want to have. Because sometimes I wake up and I'm like, must be a menace. And sometimes I'm like, snacks, pierogies.
And then back to back.
Correct, 100%.
Yes.
Or at least, you know, like the Great British Baking Show or something like that. That is my now classic Friday routine. And my cool older cousins who spent decades living in New York taught me a term for it, especially when it's on a Friday, and they call that a disco nap. So,
Ooh.
I know, it's jazzy.
I don't know if you can call something that has disco in it jazzy. That feels wrong.
I think it's adorable. You think I live by any rules in this life.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I got a sub report from when we were gone, and one of the days the sub was like, I tried the strategy of all wait, and it didn't work. And I just cackled out loud. I was like, okay, so you've seen like one movie that featured a teacher, and you were like, I can do this.
It also had Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Right, exactly. And it was about like saving underprivileged youth.
How the fuck were they like, I'll wait?
Yeah, so all the kids are talking.
Well, that was my last resort.
All the kids are talking, and they're like, I'll wait. And the kids are like, thanks? Anyways.
As you should.
A kid today in class, I said something, and the kid goes, I'm sorry, but, and I go, thank you for the apology, I will take it. And then I fully pivoted before they could launch into a single thing they said, and 2 kids clapped.
I love that.
Also, sorry, go ahead.
Super random, I just thought of this. I just weighed myself for the first time since Europe, and someone explained to me how I lost weight in Europe and ate only potatoes and meat.
All
and
of
beer.
my clothes fit better.
Yeah.
And that's not just because I'm not drying them anymore.
No, I know the actual answer, Casey.
We were gluttons.
We ate everything.
Most of it.
The first thing, because my parents, when we were talking about the trip, they immediately asked, how were you spending that much time with me? They were like, and how is Maia? Is she okay? I think it was basically like, did that much direct time with you end the small business you two have started together? And I was like, no, Maia and I are great. Honestly, here's the thing. Maia always wants to snack as well, and I didn't know that about you. And so this is fantastic.
The problem is I don't snack.
Yeah, but one time he went to Costco and he was hungry, and he came back with all of my snacks.
I don't snack. I'm like, what the hell do I buy? So I bought all of Maia's favorite snacks.
What do you do with all this time when you're not like scavenging your fridge or like laying down on a fainting couch? Like, what do you do? I hope you have a second job, because Maya and I have a second job, and you do both of those things.
The answer is
Have you tried snacks and naps? Not a professional.
There's a lot of dopamine in that, I've heard.
I'm just gonna say right now, it's not always fixed everything, but I've never felt worse after a bit of hard cheese. Just never once in my entire life.
Speaking of cheese.
That baby bill.
Remember that fried meat semi-soft cheese?
Imagine the size of a cheesecake from an American cheesecake factory. Get a second one. No, like a slice. Oh, okay. Get a second slice. Batter it and fry it. And that was just Maia's dinner one night.
so good.
It was so good that I, who had not a single bite of it, dreamt of it for days to come still. And I had beef tartare. Did you?
Yes.
Here's the thing. I wanted to bite into it like a apple, like a horse with an apple.
And I was not letting you do.
I don't blame you at all. I didn't trust myself holding it.
Yeah. I think I cut off a piece for you.
I'm like over here eating beef tartare, a delicious delicacy. And I'm over here like, look at her with her mozzarella stick. We're Americans. We're Americans.
It was a good day.
Can I also say it's fun being back in the States because I know when and where to wear gay things. I didn't bring anything gay to Europe because it's like, you know, I have a read for the
Sometimes you
neighborhood
just don't
and
know,
stuff.
yeah.
Right, and there's like only a handful of places in like Colorado, but there are a handful where I wouldn't necessarily be my own one-man pride parade. And I just, you know, without that kind of read on a situation, didn't want to roll the dice, you know? We're going to have to cut that part out, by the way. The students have started to get a little IE on the TikTok. I actually had to look at them at one point because the kids were like, oh, blah, 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 blah. And they mentioned something I posted on my personal Instagram account. Oh, girl. And I looked at them and everyone's like, ah, ha, ha. And I do this thing where I set my cup down and like kind of makes a little loud noise so I've dropped it from high enough. Yeah. And I go, my personal social media accounts are not fodder for you to talk about the next day in class. It's weird and inappropriate for you to be on my Instagram page. And I'm not trying to shame you, but you crossed a huge line and you should walk it back now. Please, and it's everything.
I just got so scared. Unfollow.
Because I'm not an intimidating person, and it's never the yell. It's that was deeply inappropriate, and you have absolutely misread the situation. I am
the largest guilt complex in anything. So that makes me terrible.
I'm sorry, Casey. I wasn't trying to trigger you. I promise. It's just one of those things where it's like, I am not your friend. I'm not your little buddy.
Hey.
I'm not talking to you after school. I'm here to educate you on how to write and research. Exactly. Be upset.
Holy shit, Monet. You guys are looking at reflections in the window, I swear to God.
I'm starting with the man in the mirror.
Singing podcast.
Thank you.
Yep. We have done so many little bits that I can just hear them in my head now before they happen.
On the car ride here, I was like, do we, and if we choose to, how, explain beads of jade for beauty? How do we explain that to our listeners?
How did that start? Did it start with the cricket?
I think it was us walking across a very busy street, and I was like, I feel like the grandma from Mulan at the start.
And a cricket just for luck. Even you can't blow it.
I think I then said something really messed up to you afterwards.
I don't remember what it was. All right, Casey, you need to either get a microphone and sit down or leave.
Can I say, though, his audio did really pick up well.
His audio did pick up well for the most part, but you had to turn it up, which then made our laughs unbearable.
Hate hearing this. Need to put that on Do Not Disturb.
I am getting a third microphone, so.
Are we? What happened to the light up one that we used?
Because that's Casey's.
Oh, fun. Okay.
Sorry, I was gone in 2 seconds.
You don't have to go anywhere. He does.
Maia just asked me.
I just said if you're going to keep talking, you got to get a microphone.
I don't want a microphone.
Okay, well then.
Existential dread.
The people on the Patreon said they want to hear more from you. I don't know.
Did they? I have not had a chance to be on yet. That is my Saturday plan. Saturday's pretty booked right now. Because it now has to happen before lunch.
We're running a 5K before lunch.
Oh, shit.
I meant to tell you about this. 'Cause if you didn't read all the papers around your running area today, Saturday all day is a mural festival on Larimer Block
Okay.
Oh, that's cool.
with Maddie and Abby.
Okay.
We could go over there.
We're doing a dinner party, and Grant has also now been invited, and you are now invited. So, like, yeah, we can eat dinner and then go for a nice little stroll. That'd be fun.
That's what I'm saying.
Abby seems like she's in her unhinged era, so
Oh, I love that.
she's also dating a lot of people. You guys can bond.
Can we get her on mic?
I invited her to the live show, which we also need to talk about.
I actually talked to the Bohawks last
Okay.
night. Love just this business hour.
Yeah.
As we wait for... I'm kidding. Talked to Bohawk last night. Lydia is thrilled to be making the invitations.
Okay, cool.
And I think is already mocking something up.
Okay, cool.
I told her we tentatively want like a smidge of a schedule outline so they kind of know what the evening is.
I already started on an Excel spreadsheet today.
Of course you did.
I knew I was like debating between a Google Doc and an Excel spreadsheet, and then I heard Grant in my head going, "Of course you would make it an Excel spreadsheet," and I clicked Google Sheets.
Our next merch line needs to be I'm a spreadsheet girl and it needs to be in green, or I'm a Google Doc boy, and it needs to be in blue, because those are the two genders. That is the biggest divide
That's
between
super
us.
fair.
Is you would rather type all crucial information into a tiny level C8 cell, and I would rather just kind of narrate it onto a Google Doc.
Yeah, but then it's hard to find. So the data is data, not a list. That doesn't make any fucking sense.
Are
to me.
you my boss at school?
Probably.
Data is data. That was a story.
Read the data.
I'm in my 9th year teaching, and I'm kind of just coming around to the other side. I also have a little clipboard that I walk around and like take notes on.
That's my favorite.
Mainly, it's just to make sure I can keep track of all the kids that have asked to go to the bathroom, because we can only send one at a time. And if I feel like I'm in a big part of the lesson, I'm not gonna let you go. And that means I immediately forget who's next. But then I have stickers on it, because of course I do. You've seen my now, Gene. And the main one in the center says, "Remind me to take attendance." I never remember, ever. I never remember it. It's not a priority for me. I mean, of course it is. Legally, I have to. But it's just like,
It's like, yeah.
it's not what I dream of when I think of these lessons.
Fair enough. Fair
It's
enough.
so funny because there's so many things that have to kind of click at the start of a lesson that I'll like pick a kid as the bell rings, and I'll be like, "Hey Maya, get me a head count of the room," and then I'll like do something, and all I am asking them to do is count.
But they're like,
And they're like, there's 20,
Panic.
there's 27 or no, and then you can see them like trying to count all
recounting
over
again.
Today, the count was so off, I had to do it myself. Because usually they're like off by one. I kind of like scan, look at the list. I'm like, okay, we're good to go.
Yeah.
But that was like, there's no way we're still missing 3 more kids. Oh. Count. It's fine. We weren't. I was right.
taking a head count anywhere is, if they're not sitting in desks, is impossible because they just.
So sweet. I love that for you. Beautiful soul. As an educator of almost a decade now, you can actually read the way like a group of students is going to move. Much like how I imagine surfers read a wave, I can like read the direction. I counted all of my students on this field trip downtown to the theater today so many times. I'm like so good at it.
Keep talking, I'll unplug your microphone.
I know you
I was like, how funny would it be if I unplugged it? And then I was like,
And I was
no,
just
that
like-
would cause like a whole thing.
And my whole thing
I would have to deal with it.
my whole thing, she doesn't mean upset me. She means ruin our audio.
Yes, no, I don't care about Grant's feelings. We just spent a week together in Prague. I had to deal with his sleep apnea.
Undiagnosed and thus untreated sleep apnea.
Yeah, he dies every night. I was listening to the episode that we released today. In the beginning, you made a joke about how you take a nap and then you die for a little
Yes,
bit.
I
And I was like,
warned
that's
you.
hilarious. And no, dear listener, he dies every night.
There were signs. She was warned. Does this look like, here's the thing, I actually get a really good deep night of sleep. But
I
it's
know.
not like an elegant one.
There was one, I didn't get mad at him, but I was like, you kept me up for fucking ever last night. And Grant was like, you could just wake me up. Cause I was like trying to like wake him up lately enough that he would like get out of it, but not wake up. And then the next time it happened, I did try, and I was like shouting his name. And at this point, we were at an Airbnb with like 4 other people, and I was like, if I keep doing this, other people in the Airbnb are gonna wake up, and it won't be Grant.
I once slept through a fire alarm in our dorm in college.
You are just as bad as Casey. Okay,
I kind of aspire to be him. He's so put together so often, so thank you for that.
Casey, we were in our last apartment that had like all concrete walls, like it was very industrial. The fire alarm was right by our bed, and it went off at like 2 a.m. and there was like an issue with the fire alarm glitching a lot because we were like part of the parking garage, and so we knew it wasn't a real fire.
Sure.
So I just kind of like groaned and like pulled the blankets over my head and like plugged my ear and waited for it to go away, which like took a little bit of time, but it went away. And then I fell back asleep, and then the next morning I was like, can you believe the fire alarm went off? And Casey was like, what?
No, I cannot. Literally, I cannot
It's
believe
like,
that.
you're telling me that you didn't wake up to the thing that is positioned in such a place meant to wake you up so you don't die in a fire.
There are only 3 things in this world that can like really actually wake me up. Being physically shaken, the sound of a ship sinking, which is the sound on that's my iPhone alarm. The ship sinking abandonment, like the burn,
Yeah.
burn, that works. Or just a light little sunlight through my blades, like my window blades, in the morning. Just the most calmest way to wake up, or violence.
You know what wakes Casey up in the middle of the night?
Maya.
Monet's little tippy taps on the floor. So that wakes him up. The sound of her little nails on the ground. Yeah, but like, like
Run for your life!
Right next to his ear does not register.
Completely reshapes the old people spooning on the bed in Titanic scene. If you just think that
they might not have known. They might just have been like dead to the world, much like Grant.
My friends right now are like gripped with the internet meme of how men are always thinking about the Roman Empire. And so they asked me one time, Grant, how often do you think about the Roman Empire? And I answered like maybe once a month. And they called absolute bullshit, because they're right. I do have my degree in history education.
That's fine.
But I'm also a homosexual, which means I'm actually always thinking
about Titanic.
100%.
I literally had that exact thought on my run earlier today. I don't know why I was thinking about it. I was like for women, it's like the Renaissance era or something like that. Oh, the podcast I was listening to while I was running was talking about Leonardo da Vinci or something. They were saying he was a Renaissance man. And I was like, I bet for gays it's the Titanic.
It is. It's 100%. Or there is like kind of like a weird Venn diagram where we are also, much like women, kind of always thinking of Mr. Darcy gripping his fist.
Yes, that's
I mean, that's always on the back burner.
That's a big one. That's a big
huge
one. Yeah, I do think about that one quite a lot.
I love how fall, spring, spring, summer, it was like working on ourselves. And fall, we're like, okay, so I'm kind of mischievous.
Speaking of which, did you know that we went to Oktoberfest?
Do you see these cups?
If you're not not watching on the YouTube,
after
go to the
listening
YouTube.
to this episode, wherever you get your podcasts, go ahead and give us another view on YouTube.
We have some cool little mugs that Maya doesn't remember buying. That's a story for another time.
We took a lot of things out of Oktoberfest. Lessons, memories, kind of.
They will all be talked about on Patreon, more or less for legal reasons.
We kind of need like a smidge of a wall.
But if you're interested in hearing about our shenanigans, because we shenaned once and we sure did shenan again.
We both fucked around, found out, didn't hate it, fucked around some more.
So real.
We experienced the immediate consequence of our actions, and I was like, well, I'm going to lean in. So
The next day we were like, okay, take a step back, let's reevaluate. And then the day after we were like, okay, go right back in.
But that Oreo day, that day in between, like half our group was eating potato soup like with a straw. Like,
So true.
hangover was horrendous. It's so worth it.
Tyler, I think, literally was like, I don't think I can look at beer right now.
And we were like, shh. We flew across the ocean for this. You dumb whore. Our listeners would be so disappointed in you right now.
He just kept being like, I have to go to Oktoberfest 2 more times, and we were like, I don't care.
Exactly. Also, that is not absolutely at all the sad sob story you seem to think it is. Sorry, it's not.
Yeah.
So it was a great time. Brought us closer together. We posted a silly little video from the hotel room in Prague just to be like, hey, we're still here. There's just a lot going on.
Yeah.
How have you felt coming back from our trip in terms of like jumping back into your life?
The emotional hangover is so real. The amount that I don't want to be sitting at an office desk looking at screens to the point where my head hurts, and would rather be just like having a silly little treat on a cobblestone in Europe, like regretting my decision to be in Europe because I want air conditioning and iced coffee. I'd rather that every day.
Remember the prosciutto buffet we had for brunch like 3 days in a row?
Yeah, that was so good.
Absolutely, I do.
That was really good.
My reaction to returning back from the trip has been, I think, like a fun little like counterbalance of, I am blessed. I enjoy my life. I really do enjoy my day-to-day experience. It's not like I come back to Denver and I'm like, ugh, I hate all this. No, like truly, I smile throughout the entire day, which is weird for a millennial, but I love every second of it. But teachers, I'm speaking to you now directly. You know how you've gone to school a little sick because it's so much more work to write a subplan than it is to just kind of teach through the illness?
Yeah.
The amount of work I had to do to get a week's worth of subplans ready, and now the work I have to do for all of those plan periods I've missed, but then to also grade all of the stuff that was produced so that way the kids can't think they can just not do anything when I leave, while also still trying to teach and get ahead of next week's stuff. I've been going in for an hour early every day this week, and fortunately the jet lag has actually made that really easy. But that's a ticking time bomb. I do not have that every morning. I think tomorrow morning might be the last morning I get that out of my body, because I'm famous. Oh, you need me there at 7:30? I will be there at 7:29. Like, I will be there right when you need me. I'm not coming in earlier.
Yeah?
I mean, I'm contractually obligated.
You come on time to places?
I texted you because it was a big day today. Let's just go ahead and say that.
All right.
We brought the kids. I mean, I've hinted to this already in the episode. We brought the kids on a theater field trip. Gosh. So there was a moment where like all of the kids that we brought are kind of like leaned forward in their chairs as like this moment happens in the play, and you can tell they're like wrapped in it, and it's absolutely something they would have not experienced if it weren't for this field trip. And there's just this moment where I go, I'm such a good teacher. And do you know who's sitting next to me as I have that moment?
Who?
Lydia.
Yeah.
Who I invite on all of our field trips.
I love that. That's so funny.
And everyone's like, oh, do you like need additional help chaperoning like when you actually get to the theater?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Totally.
Not because I just want to like see you play with my best friend who is kind of always
Who
free in the
also
middle of the day.
Yeah. Makes her own plans.
And we get a free chaperone ticket, so it's like not like it's costing anybody anything.
That's fair.
And it is nice legitimately to have like one person in the auditorium while the other one like helps takes kids to the bathroom and stuff.
That's
is
true.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And nice is nice. So
Nice is nice.
So things are great, but just really insanely busy because I'm also running. I've run 9 miles since Monday afternoon.
Love that for you.
Yeah, thank you. My dream life is killing me.
You know what my dream life happened? It wasn't my dream life. Today I got told, I guess my boss did try to tell me on Monday and I just like completely misread the message. I am being sent away for work next week.
What?
Yeah.
Where?
For a week. Las Vegas.
Fun. Are you allowed to talk about this work trip more?
I don't know what it is.
Okay.
It's like, because I think I mentioned this before, I'm in between projects kind of because my main project is super delayed. And so now we're in this like gray space between two phases of the project. So now we're like struggling to find billable time for a bunch of us. And so like this is one of the billable things.
So your work's like, we're having a hard time finding billable hours. I know. Was Cindy on a work trip to Las Vegas? The private sector never stops kind of amazing me.
Because it's like, I think what they called it is like an assessment something. I don't know. And the person that's organizing it sounds like she just needs like bodies there.
Okay.
But she's a controls lady and I'm not controls, so I don't know what value I'm adding.
That's
to this
so
realistically
healthy too.
But the message that my boss had sent me was like, there's like two things I'm working on in between. One is for I'm not going to mention the company names. We'll call them BV. And so for BV, they were like, or he was like, we have a meeting, or you should have gotten a meeting invite for the weekly like project status update meeting. And then also you should be hearing from so-and-so this week about some like thing for this project in Las Vegas next week. And I read that as, oh, I'll be hearing about a meeting that will happen next week, this week. No, I got an email today that was like, so we've confirmed that the dates for like the on-site time will be starting October 2nd. And I was like, huh? And Dave was like, yeah, I told you. And I was like, you did not.
When did you do this? When I was organizing mugs? You know not to talk to me during that time. I'm in the zone, John.
Exactly. But yeah, so I like threw a bit of a hissy fit, but then I was like, yeah, I can do it. Fine. Whatever.
You know you need to be like, fine. fine, I'll go to Vegas, but I need my own room and a stipend.
Which I get. They pay for flights, hotels, and then I also get like a $60 a day
And the
per
best
diem.
part is that because it's a work trip, you just have something to do during the day, which is the hardest time to fill in Vegas. Because morning and evenings are super easy to fill in Vegas.
I will not be going out in Vegas. With who? With who would I go out with?
That has never stopped me before in the past.
It's fair. What I'm really gonna do is catch up on all of the editing to do while I'm in Vegas. I don't know like how close to the strip I'm gonna be, but it's gonna be so ironic
God.
if I'm sitting in my hotel room above a gambling hall.
Like all the lights, the fountain is in the background, and you're just like headphones in, just kind of
God, if Grant
clipping
makes
away.
that joke one more time, I swear to God.
And I will, because it takes me a really long time to notice a pattern. Ask anyone.
So real.
That was, I kind of love the mood that we're in right now. Just a lot of stuff going on, a lot of embers in the fire. Also, this work trip now explains why you texted me that we need to double record on Saturday, which I'm always down for. Because I also, like you, like having a little bit of a bank, and I know we are depleting a
already
bank.
like behind because of Europe, so.
Right, exactly. We're behind on being ahead. I think we're on pace right now.
Someone on Patreon thought that, and I love you dearly, thought that we recorded the night before, and I don't remember who it was, but when I read that message, I was like, ugh!
Here's the thing, if you are that patron right now, before you take offense, that's how I thought we were doing it too. And
No!
I mean, obviously no now, but you know.
Once other people are doing the editing for us, maybe.
What's so fun is that at work I really am quite a type A person, and then I come here and there's no way I would be more of that than you, so I just hard write it to type B person, you know?
It
Just
totally
like, dope.
switched during our vacation too.
Yes, it did.
You were like, okay, these are the tents that I'm interested in getting into, and I was like, okay.
You're like, there was a point where I was like, I know exactly where we're going because I've been using the castle to like geolocate myself the entire time. And Maia was like, okay.
If you left me right now, I'd be lost.
You like had some dark chocolate. You're fine.
Bought a
Here we
whole
go.
basket of dark chocolate and a puzzle.
I love it. I love it so much. Yeah. So thank you for that. I'm excited for Saturday. It's
Also, this motherfucker sent me a cute little message about like, thanks for traveling with me, you've been really great, and then immediately turned his phone on airplane mode when we were on the plane. So I tried to like respond, and it didn't go through, and I was like, that asshole. That's how Grant deals with sentiment.
Here's the thing. I want you to know. It's even worse than that. I hadn't even thought about your reaction when I did that. I'm on the plane, and in my mind, kind of like wrapping up business before I just really like unplug for the next 10 hours, you know?
Yeah.
And so I like shoot off a message to Danny. I'm like, hey, hope Vienna's doing well. Sorry I wasn't really awake this morning to like say goodbye to you. Like text my parents, like on the plane, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like, you know, kind of wrapping things up, and I go, well, actually, like, a person that I'm just really thankful for is Maia right now. And it'd be weird to like, turn around and then yell 2 seats behind me. This was a great trip, and I'm grateful for you, and you're really supportive. So I'll just type it out real quick, boop, 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 boop. And since that was kind of like an extra addendum, I think I'm done. Boop, 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 and done.
I like tried to respond, and I was like that picture of that white fluffy guy like sitting on the stool, like.
You're like, was this a drive-by compliment, Grant? And I was like, doop, 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 arrival, starring Amy Adams. Let's go. like as soon as we got on the plane, that text, like Freaky Friday, reversed us back into Type A, Type B instantly.
And I edited an entire episode on that plane.
And I watched La La Land. I really hope in this analogy I'm Jamie Lee Curtis, by the way.
That makes a lot of sense. I'm thinking of the Everywhere, Everything, All at Once, Jamie Lee Curtis.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay.
Grant has a story.
I think I do. Here's the thing. Everything has been kind of a fugue state. I think I'm gonna look back in 2 weeks and be like, that work was really sloppy. But I've managed to somehow get 28 kids signed up for a debate tournament on Tuesday. Yeah, the program's really big this year. So keep in mind, our school only has like 520 kids in it. I'm taking a notable percentage of the school with me. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
Ooh.
So I don't know what's going to happen in 2 weeks when you get
I
to
did
fall
not
break.
realize your school was that small. It's only 500 kids?
Yeah, and we have about 60 kids in the program. I have more than 10% of the school in the program.
My high school was like 1,500. Anyway, just had to process that for a second.
So we're gonna attempt to tell this story, okay? And as has kind of become tradition on our podcast, we always love to ask our co-host a little opening question, and it's been always history questions since we've started this. But I think now at episode 23, 2.
22.
22. 22. Maybe we
literally
spice it up
on
a
the
little
screen.
bit. That's good. That's good to know. Where?
Right there.
Okay,
And
well, I
right
don't know how
there.
you think I'm going to be able to see that.
Without your readers, old
I
man?
failed my scoliosis test. You think I can see that?
Grant told me that he started holding his phone down low like a parent, kind of as a bit, and now he actually does it because he was like, I actually can see it better. And I
I
was
told you
like,
that in confidence, drunk in front of several of our friends.
are the friends from Canada that we met 20 minutes before
I
that?
love them. I'm mourning the fact that we will never see Joe and Sarah again.
I think they gave their contact to someone. It wasn't us. I think it was
So
Danny.
essentially no one.
It's Danny or Tyler, which, yeah, they gave it to the air.
Yeah, it is actually easier to see it down low and then kind of at an angle. Your light doesn't stare. Your eyes don't stare directly into the light. It kind of catches like the edge of the light, and then it's easy because it's not as bright.
So I was 30.
Honestly, really financially stable. And that actually is kind of like the flower pot that all of my happiness blooms from. That regardless of how erratic I get, I have a modicum of stability.
Oh, I have one more last embarrassing thing for Grant today.
Eventually, we're going to publish an episode that is just an hour and a half of Grant and Maia catching up.
Yeah.
And then
We saw each other like not long ago. Someone commented on Spotify for the Houdini episode. Grant, at 1 hour and 59 minutes, you say, your sate has been field, and neither of you skip a beat.
Listen, friends, countrymen, friends, let me tell you, growing up, I legitimately had a speech impediment, which is why it's really like harrowing that I'm now like an educator and teach speech and debate.
Yeah.
I still, especially if I'm like flustered or speaking fast, when I'm trying to say the phrase, it's not my fault, I will regularly say, it's not my fart. So it's not my fault. Like I'll say, like, it's not my fart, but it'll be like a soft, it's not my fart, and it's like it's so embarrassing, and it gets caught every time. And then I now have like a second front I gotta defend. Like I was
now you're on a podcast where everyone's like, who's Julie Garden?
Oh my god, such a good edit. Yeah, so on a podcast, defending myself on multiple fronts. This does remind me actually a little bit of one more story. So when we were in London on the last night, dying of heat stroke in what we were calling the poet flat of a hotel room we rented. It was fine. There was
just no AC and we were on the top
It was
floor.
absolutely not fine, but because you're in London, it's actually totally fine. Kind of one of those things, you know?
And we were in the place that we wanted to be, and that was what mattered.
And so in like the depths of heat stroke, we FaceTime my parents, and we share with them the exciting news that Maia and I were recognized on the street in London twice.
Crazy.
Completely crazy. And my parents were like, that's nuts. Also, it's like midnight in London, but my parents are at a baseball game in Nebraska and have like broken into a closed concession stand to hear us better. And they think it's so cool. And they're like kind of shocked and they're like very happy for us. Didn't tell a soul. Talked to my brother today on the phone and I was like, well, you know, like what mom and dad told you. And he goes, no, I haven't heard any of this. What are you talking about? And I was like, what?
Were they drunk? Maybe they just don't remember.
Maybe my dad, maybe had a beer or two in them, but no, they are not publicly drunk people. Not like their children. They're just older.
That's really funny.
I know.
If you're one of the people that recognized us and you maybe took a picture with us, Grant and I are dying to see that because we love you and we're sorry that we came off the way that we did. We both immediately dissociated when you told us that you follow us on Instagram and asked for a picture, and I want to see what our faces look like because it's probably like
just
deer in the headlights, like
completely shocked anyone would ever like want a photo of us, especially like to approach us, get the photo, and then leave. Like I've forced many people to be in photos with me. To be like, sorry, I just want the photo. Out.
And I just need to see it. I just want to know what happened.
Also because we're in Europe, so we're damp all the time.
It We were fresh that morning because that was like
was
the first stop.
thing we had done.
We were on our way to a bakery. Yeah.
Is this whole episode just going to be about Europe?
I mean,
Maybe.
Yeah, we're
That's right.
like 30 minutes in.
Oh,
so I
only
think
30 minutes.
Yeah,
And we
we're
have
like,
to cut a little bit of it. That's
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
And we have Casey at the start, too.
Yeah.
That's fun. Not all about us. Okay. So, let's go ahead and reverse it to
part
90
one.
seconds of... Oh, right. We have to do that. Part 1 of Ghosted. Period.
Period, not question mark.
So I'm really excited about today's episode. I'm excited for this entire series. I think Ghosted is one of these wonderful topics where it's specific, but it's also very broad. And I'm excited for, since I'm up first, what I'm bringing to the table today. So I'm going to toss out Maia, our like customary speech impediment, customary opening question.
Okay.
Maia, if you were to say, and wait for the whole sentence,
Oh.
if you were to say I had a type of story.
You're right. Good call. Good call to make me wait.
On the Patreon, you could answer what you thought was the question. If you thought I had a type of story that I like to share on this podcast, what is the type of story that I seem to gravitate towards the most?
Like historical figures.
Anything more specific?
Anything more specific? Like inventors? Or like creators?
Yeah, kind of a little bit. I just love historical women we got wrong.
I was just thinking of Graham. And I was like, how does he relate to the
forgot.
rest of them?
And I'm still stuck on Mary Shelley because this is Mary Shelley part 2. Oh. I'm kidding. No. Maya's
I don't think my emotion...
Maya's face was like, no, it's not, and no, it's not.
I don't think I didn't just have therapy, so I'm not like emotionally well.
Okay.
You can't throw that shit at me right now, Grant.
Okay, so we are going to, I want to read, you're going to recognize the name right away. That's not the reveal. Also, I didn't want to have to ask the question.
I'm started researching for what my topic is, and I'm really struggling to find a reveal, so.
Okay, I'm going to read the first 2 paragraphs, and then I'm going to pause, and then we're going to have to like kind of like a disclaimer moment, okay?
Okay.
So we're talking about one of the world's most famous, prolific, and successful authors, Agatha Christie, who in 1926 was really starting to turn the corner and reaching kind of a new level of success and fame and celebrity. Her book, The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, her ingenious masterpiece, had just been published, and her literary agent was pushing for a follow-up. There were photos of her in the Daily Mail, a new publishing contract with William Collins, and a £500 advance for the serial rights to The Man in the Brown Suit. That advance alone paid for a brand new Morris Crowley car. But things were not so glistening behind the scenes. Her marriage to Colonel Archibald Christie was on the rocks, and he had asked for a divorce in private. Her mother had just passed away, a funeral her husband refused to attend. And so, with the 2 critical pillars in her life crumbling, on the night of December 6th, 1926, she disappeared. And so, on this, part 1 of Ghosted...
She ghosted her life.
Correct. Is the mysterious and the not mysterious and then actually deeply understandable disappearance of Agatha Christie.
Love that.
Alternative title, How Agatha Christie Got Her Groove Back. Okay, so this is...
Boom, baby.
Boom! Got Whoopi Goldberg. I actually don't know who's actually in it. It's a movie series. Anyways.
I was referencing New Groove. Empress New Groove. Boom, baby!
And How So-and-so Got Their Groove Back is a movie I think Whoopi Goldberg started.
Oh, okay, cool.
Love that we're both
We're
on the
on
same
different pages,
page.
but same.
Why do we even have that lever, Kronk? Okay, so...
That was just such a more gay way of saying it.
Oh, just so sassy and disappointed. Why do we even have that lever, Kronk? No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
It's fine.
We're here now. It's fine. So, because we're already so jovial about this, and it's certainly not the Eastern European liqueur that we're drinking tonight.
So no, it started hitting me about halfway through that sentence, and I was like...
100%. I looked down and looked up, and I was like, okay. Write a little bit of your poem with us. We're talking about a missing woman, right? Okay,
Yes.
so for those of you who do not know about the disappearance of Agatha Christie, I'm going to spoil a little bit now. I think it's going to make it slightly easier listening to. She does not die. That is not the mystery of the disappearance of Agatha Christie. You and I have both, I think, tiptoed around but never actually touched like a real true crime topic, and that is not what this one is going to be. I have a complicated feelings about kind of sharing the stories of active victims in that moment. It's a complicated water.
I'll do it first.
She absolutely will, and then we'll see.
Oh, I have several on my list.
I'm sure you do.
I considered one of them for today.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but it was covered really recently by another big podcast, and so I felt weird about doing it.
Bigger than us? She's gonna cut that. I can already see it. I can
That's
see it.
gone.
So anyways, her disappearance, not finding her is not the mystery. Nothing horrifically, permanently bad is going to happen to her. She's going to have a really rough, kind of 2 years, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. But the big thing is the actual disappearance itself is still not really understood. There's a lot of questions around it. People don't really understand what happened. And today, there's a bunch of kind of competing understandings and theories as to what's going on. So we're going to kind of go through the disappearance a little bit. And we're also going to talk about both ways her case then is very similar to the way cases are covered now. And then, as always, our signature, well, I laughed, final thoughts.
This is the summary page of a book report.
I know.
Summary slide.
This is who I am. I tried once not to do it, and I was like, nope, I hate it. Nope, I hate it so much. No. Today's sources are investigating the strange disappearance of Mrs. Agatha Christie by the National Archives, a long chronological article from the New York Times, as well as supporting evidence from Historic UK, the article The Mystery of Agatha Christie's Disappearance by The Guardian, as well as additional surplus information for one-off facts, but that's where the bulk of the narrative came from.
Sweet.
And with that, let's get into Agatha Christie, who hopefully you have paused now and Googled, since I haven't actually given you a description as to who she is. Agatha Christie is the most successful published author in the history of the English publishing world.
She really did true crime, murder mysteries,
Correct.
Right? Yeah.
And she not only did them so well that she basically
started
the genre,
yeah.
set it, whatever the genre was before, it's not anymore.
Yeah.
She has sold her, and then her licensing since her passing, have sold over 1 billion copies of her stories. And she was a prolific writer, many of which you've heard from already.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into it. Ghosted with Grant and Maia, but not ghosting Grant and Maia, because that would be dickish. I love that. That was good. It was like the plot of one of her own novels. On the evening of December 4th, I said December 6th earlier. On the evening of December 4th, Agatha Christie, carrying nothing but an attaché case, kissed her daughter goodnight and sped away from her home in England that she had shared with her husband, Colonel Archibald Christie. 2 days later, December 6th, 1926, Christie, who was 36 at the time and had already published several detective novels, including The Secret Adversary and The Murder on the Links. Her disappearance merited banner news headlines all across the world, making the front page of the Times on December 6th, because she's now been gone. Quote, "The novelist's car was found abandoned near Guildford on the edge of a chalk pit, the front wheels actually overhanging the edge. The paper reported the car evidently had run away, and only a thick hedge growth prevented it from plunging into the pit."
Oh, God.
Shout out to the New York Times, who did such a good job of pulling all of these absolutely ridiculous headlines from the time. The thing I love about headlines from the time, I think it's just a really interesting way of writing. They just tell the whole goddamn story in the headline.
Yeah.
Just the whole thing.
They don't leave anything.
Right.
Just because I feel like they don't want you to read the article and be like, oh, there's a catcher.
Part of me wonders if it's like, are people just too blind to read the smaller article at a certain point? So you got to get...
I'm sorry, mister. I got to hold my phone down here.
Wow, you are really latching on to that.
Yeah, because you're like 50 years old in your eyes for some reason.
I am 30 and my doctor thinks I'm young and healthy.
Did he see you when you were doing this shit?
I was gonna say hot, but I was like, no, that's not what he said. That is not what my doctor said.
Hot again.
Thank you. Thank you.
This whole plot seems like what I thought the first Glass Onion movie was going to be.
Knives Out.
Yeah, I genuinely thought it was just a prank the whole time.
You are not alone, and we are going to get into that.
Nice.
Because where that even narrative and story comes from has absolutely sinister roots. And if you have heard that and kind of believed it because you've seen PR stunts in your own time, you have fallen into just a tad of misogyny, my friends.
Oh, no.
But we're going to get into it. Because we have, like, no other choice.
There's not any men that I can say that I know their names and not Agatha Christie's, so I was going to make a joke that doesn't make sense.
It was us in the first couple episodes that we couldn't get the order of her name right. We were called, like, Krista Agatha or whatever.
I think it was relatively recent, I thought. I don't know. It was whatever.
Here's one of these headlines that just tells the whole story. Published in 1926. Mrs. So she's married, fellas. Mrs. Agatha Christie, novelist, disappears in strange way from her home in England. This is the London newspaper. Where else is she supposed to be? Granted, Miss Agatha Christie is American born, but has clearly been living much of her life in England.
Yeah.
So, December 8th, 1926, 2 days after her disappearance makes huge headlines. 3 days since... So here's what it says. After 3 days of searching for the novelist, the police called it off. They said Christie's brother-in-law had received a letter from her saying that she was going to a Yorkshire spa, quote, for rest and treatment. Case closed, right? Message in the Times. Message ends hunt for Mrs. Christie. She's married, fellas. They're never going to not call her Mrs. Christie. So I'm going to stop saying it because I do think it's going to start triggering some people.
Misogyny.
100%. There's the huge headline, and then right below it, an equally huge headline that's a full sentence. The kind of sentence I aspire my students to write. Writer explains disappearance in England by saying she went to health resort. And then the article starts.
Like that is the story.
Correct. And then the New York Times added this. I think this is a review from the time, because these headlines are actually doing like great jobs of kind of picking up her work. People are like, a woman writer? Well, let's see what this is. And they're falling in love with like the mother of murder mysteries. At the time it's quoted, one of the reviews, Miss Agatha Christie's quotes, she captures something elemental about mysteries. That motive and opportunity may suffice for a crime, but the satisfying part is the detective's revelation of whodunit, how, and why. So it's like, that's running in the paper, her books are falling off the shelves. Oh, her like pivotal work is getting advertised because it's like just been published. And she's gone.
Her PR team really pulled out all the stuff.
100%. I think a lot of this is actually scheduled beforehand, because a lot of like the research that I did at least shows that the people closest to her
knew that she was gonna go.
No, were legitimately concerned as to what had happened. Yes, and there it becomes very quickly like they don't actually know who in this inner circle they can trust. Yes, it's actually a really exciting story.
Whoa.
And so stepbrother, or sorry, what was the exact wording? Was it brother-in-law? Brother-in-law. Yeah. So the brother of her husband, who has quietly asked for a divorce, says like, hey guys, don't have to keep looking. I have a message that says, haha.
She's at a health spa.
Don't know how I forgot. She mentioned the vacation she was gonna go on. Weird that her car crashed and was hanging over the ledge, but no, like, it's good.
Yeah, because immediately the police would be like, husband did it.
There's so much of this article, I'm like, Gone Girl ripped off Agatha Christie's disappearance.
I'm starting to think Glass Onion ripped off Agatha Christie's
I'm actually not entirely sure Agatha Christie didn't write Glass Onion.
That makes more sense.
Okay, so that letter gets published on December 8th, where everyone's like, oh, there was a letter that we totally forgot about. 2 days later, though, December 10th, 1926, the police, apparently unconvinced by the letter, now expand their search, even bringing one of Christie's pets to the scene to see if he could track the owner's scents.
I'm sorry, what kind of pet was it?
A dog?
What kind of dog?
I wish, I mean...
Because you can't bring Mo anywhere.
I just did the look on my phone to try to see if it said anything. If it makes you feel better, it says, in parentheses, the dog just whined pitifully.
Yeah, because you gotta train dogs for that shit, guys. They gotta be trained for that.
I'm so excited for you to hear some of the detective moves they pull out and trying to find her. It's like...
I watch too many true crime documentaries, Grant. You're about to see the worst side of me.
The way it's like a 5th grader trying to investigate the disappearance of an international author.
You know how when you're watching like The Bachelor or like those dating or reality TV and you're just yelling at the screen?
100%.
That's how I am with like old-timey crimes or even new-timey crimes, because sometimes the police are just so...
New-timey crimes, also just known as crimes.
New age, modern.
More recent crimes.
Crimes that they make documentaries about.
The old new timesy crimes. Hope I can get a turkey leg.
Put it on a t-shirt. I want it.
Well, I do not know why I had a second of anxiety that we weren't going to get enough laugh out of this story. I walked in today, folks, and was like, it might be 20 minutes. I had a really hard time running it today. I don't know what we're about to do. The second paragraph. This is still on December 10th. After the detectives were like, I don't think she's in a spa in the Yorkshires. Specifically, they're now of the opinion that she just killed herself.
Oh my God.
So they're like, we don't like your answer. Without any evidence, we have our own.
She offed herself.
Exactly. Like, literally, like, no letter, no body, no...
Couldn't have been the husband that just asked for a divorce quietly
well,
under
here's
wraps.
the crazy thing. That's actually super not public knowledge at all during any of this. The Times reported the search seemed to be centered on a pond called, quote, the Silent Pool, which according to local legend was bottomless.
She absolutely picked that place to go missing. She was like, the gossip will be so good.
Also, who are the locals that you're asking how deep this pond is? Is it like a 4-year-old who's like, I don't know, mister, I've never seen the bottom of it before. I think it's bottomless.
That means it doesn't exist.
Exactly. The Times is like, we believe Agatha Christie's in the center of the earth because she fell into a bottomless pond. Exactly.
Because no matter where you dig a hole, somehow you end up in China.
You know how convenient of an excuse it is to wrap up a case to be like, we actually think there's no murderer. I think she just did it to herself. That's obviously not how you should talk about suicide. But they're like, we just think she maybe did that, and then there's not going to be a body because there's no end to this pond. Case closed. Good job. Bring the dogs back. Like, it is... I do not want it to make it sound like we were being flippant about death by suicide. What I'm trying to be flippant about is the fact that the police were like, well, this is a really easy end to this novel.
Yeah, which they still do,
right.
By the way.
100%. The headline. 500 police and planes hunt for Mrs. Christie. Her favorite terrier, it's a terrier, her favorite terrier also enlisted in the search for missing British novelist. And so...
That dog's just happy to be there, man.
Absolutely. I also do believe whimpering is just what they do.
Yeah, I have Mo.
The next day, December 11th, a week after Christie's disappearance, the police are flummoxed. Quote, no reliable witness has seen her since the night she left her house in Sunningdale a week ago. But... there was one important development. Oh, it's so good. I read it and I was like, yes. Christie, Agatha Christie, had left 3 letters behind. One to her secretary, another to her brother-in-law, and a third to her husband, who refused to divulge what she had written.
Yeah, because it maybe will make him think that he's a killer.
Right, but then what's in the letter to the secretary and the brother-in-law?
I don't care about the brother-in-law more or less. I care about the secretary.
Right. What side are they on? Who are they in it with? 100%. The next day, now December 12th, I think we're getting close to day 8, detectives appealed for help from...
Oh no. And the Green Berets and their moms.
Episode 5. Motorists. Because it's the 1920s, so they're like, hey,
Anyone
everyone,
with a car?
anyone with a car want to search these roadways for us? Also, anyone else want to join us? They appealed to motorists and amateur sleuths. Quote, without telling why, the police still believe she is somewhere in the vicinity, not far from the spot where her missing automobile was found. So you're just like, we can't search this small bottomless pond. Can you bring your car and help us out? But we're pretty sure she's still
In
right
the field.
here.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you the details of what happened to Agatha Christie at the end of this. I think you probably have been able to pick this up.
Yeah.
Wrong about every single possible thing so far.
She writes true crime murder mystery novels.
100%.
She knows how this investigation is gonna go.
Well, also, like, this all assumes that she hasn't been kidnapped or, like, isn't actually...
That's also really true.
She is a woman who was driving alone, who was worth a lot of money at the time. They had just bought a 12-bedroom house
Holy shit.
for a 3-person family.
And a new car, didn't they?
Yes, she is loaded with money. They're like, oh, I wonder if she was like murdered by herself, or if she's just like hanging out by the pond and we haven't found her at lunchtime yet, or something. Not like
She's hiding in a tree.
no, could this novelist who's worth a lot of money and like very recently just kind of moved into this area and is super in the news right now was like maybe the victim of abduction or something like that?
Also, how did the husband just get away with being like, I don't want to tell you what she said in the letter?
Oh, you mean Colonel Christie?
Colonel Wojtek is the only one that I answer to.
He's the only member of the military I will respect in the UK.
Yeah, what the fuck? Why? Oh, because he was in the military? They were
Right.
like, we trust you implicitly.
So then this is where you're going to find out what side the secretary is on.
And your ex-military has no part. What the hell?
I love that to really get you going. I just need to pick like a murder mystery.
Sometimes investigations are so dumb.
I know, because it's. I think part of it too is what they are choosing to leak to the press to provide like a narrative that then shapes like what the case is. Like I don't have, for obvious reasons, access to what they're actually reporting to each other
yeah.
or the evidence they're collecting. But this is the narrative they are choosing to put
release.
out. You know, and they're eating it up. So in the same article, her personal secretary angrily denied that the whole thing was a publicity stunt. Quote, "It is ridiculous. Mrs. Christie is quite too much of a lady for that." The secretary also handed over the note Christie had left for her, saying it contained only scheduling details. The police, scrambling for clues and not able to be like, oh, so you're not going to accept suicide or publicity stunt? So the police, scrambling for clues,
Oh, Jesus.
turned to Christie's, at the time, unfinished manuscript for hints. They read the like half-done version of a book called The Blue Train to be like, I don't know, does an author go missing in the night in it?
Oh my God. If she wants to go missing, she's gonna go missing, guys. Like, and also, if like that's assuming that she left hints for them to find her, and not that she was murdered or anything like that. That implies forethought.
Do you want to take a guess as to who has the copy of her unfinished manuscript? The brother-in-law.
Love that for
I
them.
do. I do too. Okay, so then we're at December 13th, the next day. These are day-by-day updates. December 13th, between 10 and 15,000 people took part in the search for Mrs. Christie, aided by 6 trained bloodhounds. And this is an actual quote. A crate of Airedale Terriers. I don't know how many terriers that is, but apparently a unit of measurement is a crate of them.
So
Go ahead.
trained bloodhounds.
Trained bloodhounds, a bunch of terriers.
Just
quote,
like not trained, they just brought terriers.
The next one is many retrievers, and getting last billing, the Alastair police dogs. And even services of just common dogs. By this point, the news headline has gripped the nation. I'm so excited for this next part. There was a moment when I read this when I was like, even if there's not enough information to make an episode about this, I owe it to everybody to do this so I can say this right here.
Oh no.
A concerned nation comes together and starts to pray and worry for Miss Agatha Christie. And do you know who gets into the news for all of his thoughts and prayers?
Who?
Oh, is it maybe our good friend, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle?
Stop it! It's like, she's fine. She came to me in a dream.
That's 100%. He leads a seance. Which also, okay, so for those
I want to
of
know
you,
what Houdini was doing in the back.
I'm gonna go have to go find her myself.
He knew where she was the whole time.
He's in on it.
He told Sir Arthur Conan Doyle where she was. Look, she's right there.
Listen, for those of you who do not know why we are losing our minds right now, in episode 19 that's revealed Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the writer of Sherlock Holmes, was
creator of deductive reasoning somehow.
Was a huge spiritualist, which I don't know after episode 19 I could actually give you a definition for. I think I could at the start of that episode.
It means that they believe that you can communicate with the dead.
Or basically. At least charge people to pretend to.
Yes, that's really what it was.
So Sir Conan Arthur Doyle, the author of Sherlock Holmes, whatever.
Fair enough.
That man has way too much respect in society for what he believed in.
If that made him mad, he'd haunt me.
Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, or whatever your name is, if you're upset at us, come into the room right now with Houdini and his mom.
No?
Here's one more thing, too. I thought about this. Remember how during episode 19, when you started talking about mediums, and I talked about Patricia Arquette, who starred in Mediums? Sir Arthur Conan Doyle did it first.
That's so real.
Like, oh, okay. Listen, I don't think Patricia Arquette was like a writer on that show. And also, we didn't get nearly enough people who wrote in about Medium. Put some respect on that show's name. Right? And, like, held my family together when I was in middle school. And so, quote, this is just ripped directly from the headlines. Oh, a party of spiritualists visited Newland Corner Saturday evening and held a seance by the bushes where the novelist's abandoned car was found. It is understood the medium expressed the opinion that Mrs. Christie had met with foul play.
Yeah, of course they did.
I want you to know right now that, like, kind of, but actually, like, wrong. Like, I'm not trying to give away too much, but like I said, like, she is not... dead. She's not dead. To help relieve any anxiety listeners out there, gripping your almonds at your work desk right now. She is not assaulted by like a person. She is not robbed or anything. Something sad does happen to her, but it's not on the like, oh my God, kind of sad, you know?
Yeah.
So the spiritualists are wrong again. Chalk another point up for Harry Houdini. Okay, so the spiritualists on December 13th are like, we think she was assaulted. December 14th, the paper reported that the police had found some important clues nearby, including a bottle labeled poison. A bottle labeled poison like it's a Cartoon Network
like it's from Alice in Wonderland, like, drink me. And then you peel the label back and it's poison.
Exactly. Fragments of a torn-up postcard, a woman's fur-lined coat. How are you searching an area for 8 days and not finding a coat?
And you don't find that.
A box of face powder, the end of a loaf of bread, a cardboard box, and 2 children's books. They found the remnants of several picnics.
Yeah.
They're like, we think we found her, guys.
And why do they think the trained bloodhounds didn't find that? What the fuck? But the terriers maybe did.
In my mind, it's like a pond that you can walk around in 8 minutes, and they just kind of keep searching
around it, yeah, with various dogs.
Perhaps more ominous was the detective's new theory. Quote, the police have information which they refuse to divulge, and which leads them to view that Mrs. Christie had no intention of returning home when she left home. Headline, husband believes wife alive. Always good when you gotta run that. Always good.
The husband was like, shit, they got ahead of us.
Exactly. December 15th, the next day, the novelist is found in Yorkshire at a spa.
The brother-in-law was like,
How did no one check? How did no one check?
I can't believe not a single person was like, maybe we should close that loop, tie that loose end up.
Do we want to just like let Yorkshire know? They could look around for
And also she trusted him with her unfinished manuscript.
Let's send one motorist and a crate of terriers up there to see what they turn up.
The craziest part is that motorist could have found the answer. All you gotta do is there a Mrs. Christie here?
No, what I will say is this. Did a Google map search of like the distance between like where she lived, and her car was found very close to where she lives, and then where she ends up at. I have the name further down. It's like Herondale or something like that. It kind of sounds like a Game of Thrones name.
It really does.
But today it would be a 4.5-hour car ride from the south of England to like the north of England. It is actually like a significant distance.
So how did she get there?
We're gonna get there.
Okay, cool.
That's a great question to be asking. Headline: Miss Christie found in Yorkshire spa. Stop. Missing novelist under an assumed name was staying at the hotel there. Stop. Clue: a newspaper picture. Stop. Mystery writer is victim of loss of memory, her husband declares.
Was stop written into all of those headlines?
It's a big headline.
A little headline?
A slightly smaller font, a slightly smaller font, a slightly smaller font, the same font, and then the article.
Who is the editor?
I don't know, but bravo.
Why are they picking all of these fonts?
Bravo. When I picked this at first, without really knowing anything, that's the really fun thing about this. You guys are like, you guys always sound like you're having so much fun. We are. We just get to pick a topic that we've heard vague things about at parties, and then become experts on them in like 72 hours. And it's always such a surprise to us what we find. That it's like,
you'll never guess.
I know. That the last couple ones have been like kind of serious.
Yeah.
This is like, I think one of the funniest episodes I've done. This is what is quoted in the article at the time. Her husband informed reporters, quote, "She does not know who she is. She has suffered from the most complete loss of memory." December 16th, the Times reported that Christie had checked into the Harrogate Spa. Harrogate was the name of the town. The name of the spa was like the Hydro Spa or whatever. Under the name Mrs. Tressa Neal. When asked, Colonel Christie insisted he had no idea the meaning of that particular name. Nor, he added, did his wife. Years later, of course, it's revealed that Agatha Christie had, in fact, used the last name of her husband's mistress.
I fucking knew it.
I love Agatha Christie so much.
That's so petty.
I know it is.
That's beautiful.
She goes in, and this will say it later too. I might repeat it twice because I think this is really interesting. When she checks into the spa, she tells them her name is Teresa Neal and that she's a South African. And everyone's like, what a crazy thing that a liar would say. But like, then you piece together her life, and she picks the last name of the woman who's about to replace her in her marriage, a woman by the name of Nancy Neal. And she says she's from South Africa because, like biographers will later note, South Africa was the last place Archie and Agatha were happy together. And that when they returned to England, that's when the marriage turned.
That's so fucking petty.
It's petty, it's sad, it's beautiful. It's hard to understand the exact state of mind she was in by the time she checked in.
She had that whole 4.5-hour drive or really long walk.
Here's actually the crazy thing. She did a lot of it in psychosis. Yeah, that's the whole second act of it. Stay with us. I love doing a little This American Life impersonation. In the same piece of paper where he was like, don't know where she got that name from. That's a crazy name. And my wife doesn't know either. She also don't ask her any questions about it.
Yeah.
In the same paper, it is noted that, quote, hundreds of amateur detectives were today putting away their lynx eyes, gumshoes, and Sherlock Holmes pea coats and resting from their weary trampings over the Surrey Downs.
What was Sir Arthur Conan Doyle doing?
Getting another median wrong. March 17th, 1928, the next chapter of this saga took place about 15 months later when Agatha Christie sued her husband for divorce. That lawsuit goes unchallenged, which means the husband was fine with it.
Nice.
And on September 16th, 1930, 2 years after her divorce, Agatha Christie will remarry.
Oh.
Someone else. Yeah. Really. Archibald the cheater Christie marries Nancy Neal, and they, I guess...
I hope they have a horrible life.
they live happily together for like 30 years.
Gross.
But, and this is kind of cool too, Agatha Christie outlives both of them.
Good.
And her marriage lasts longer too.
Good.
And she marries an archaeologist, which is absolutely the kind of like profession the spouse of a murder mystery writer has.
100%.
You know how we've joked, I think, on this podcast and in Europe. It's hard actually now to remember what we talked about in Europe and what we've talked about on this podcast.
That's really true.
Because we've just been talking to each other for
like
a month. Maia loves a trope where like enemies to lovers and the enemies show up at the inn and there's only one room left and it has just one bed.
At one point, we're both reading, sitting next to each other, and he's reading some cute little novel he got at this gay bookstore. I'm reading this other novel on my phone, and we're talking. We like exchange. Every once in a while, Grant will laugh and then kind of look at me, and I'll notice him looking at me and be like, if he wants to talk about it, he'll fucking say something.
I just want you to know that I'm having a good time right now.
Yeah. And then at one point he was like, how's your book? And I was like, oh, we're only 25% in and we already got to the inn with one room, with one bed.
Nice. She wants to see that story 100 times. I want to see archaeologist, murder mystery author married. I want to see that story 100 times. I will literally never be sick of it.
That's so
Cass,
cool.
Get Glenn Close in it, and I don't know, some guy. And like let me watch it over and over
forever.
again.
Yeah, fair enough.
Okay, so now we are into a category I'm liking to call the postscript. And there's the postscript,
Holy
which
shit,
is
that's
actually...
a lot of postscript.
Right, because the postscript is actually not our final thoughts. Because the story I just told you, while interesting and compelling, and I tried to keep it as like bare bones as possible to what was being covered at the time. What was covered at the time then kind of becomes the legacy, because for things that are about to become pretty clear, this isn't a part of Agatha Christie's life that she's eager to talk about.
Okay.
She has lots of books, she remarries, she like finds happiness, but this is not necessarily a period in her life that she's eager to rehash for the public over and over again.
Right.
And her reputation kind of already been set too, and you know how wonderful society treats women who try to redefine themselves out of a narrative. Taylor Swift has a whole tour about that right now.
It's true.
And she's also dating Travis Kelce, which is so fun. There's a very good chance that's not happening in 3 weeks when this gets published, but who knows?
It's so real. But she'll call you an anti-feminist if she hears you say that. So.
Here's the thing. Someone is already writing songs about the Taylor Swift-Travis Kelce breakup on TikTok, and it's actually really good. And to the person who's doing it, I am sorry that I can't remember your name right now. In like the 10 seconds I got to breathe today, I saw it and was like, yes. I think I even liked it, moved on. Anyways, so here's the postscript on this whole story and narrative. For a long time, people investigating Agatha Christie's disappearance had tended towards one of two positions. One is that in the days after the crash, she was experiencing the specific condition of dissociative fugue, a state brought on by trauma and stress in which you literally forgot who you are. The alternative position is that she was faking it, even trying to frame Archie for killing her. Only one thing can be said for certain. On Saturday, the 4th of December, 1926, and for some days thereafter, Christie experienced a distressing episode of mental illness, brought on by the trauma of the death of her mother and the breakdown of her marriage. She lost her way of life and her sense of herself.
Yeah,
and
fair
I think
enough.
also really important to remember during this time, her father dies when she's like 11 or 12, and then her mother dies, and now her husband, who she, from all reports, was like kind of in love with, at least when they first met.
Yeah.
He was a fighter pilot in World War II, and they got married on one of his leaves and like stayed with him. She's also 36 when all this is happening. And it's not, again, like society is super supportive and welcoming of like women who choose or are single like later into their 30s. It's fucking 1926 and she's 36 years old and
has no prospects and no money.
Thank you. I was like, say it, Maia, say it.
I didn't know if you wanted me to or not.
I always want you to say it. Oh, don't judge me, Elizabeth. I'm 29 years old. I have no money and no prospects.
I become
I'm
a burden to my family.
And I'm frightened. Do you know how many people send that to you on your single 29th birthday? A fucked up amount of people send that to you.
It's 27.
Okay, so it was that extra fucked up.
We wrote the entire quote on Abby's birthday cake, and it was so long it had to go down like onto a paper towel.
If I never get on record for anything else in this podcast, I want it to be on record that I'm here for Abby. I'm an Abby stan. I'm clapping in the back row. I'm clapping in the front row.
You'll have to tell her that in person. I don't think she listens.
That's so cool, and now I won't. It's a small business. We need to stop acting like we're fine not being the center of everyone's attention.
I'm absolutely. The more times that I can tell a story and have it be the first time they've heard the story, yeah, shut the fuck up. Don't act like that isn't good for you, too.
Okay, but for me, now I'm trying to, like, have stories with friends about the stories that we've talked about. I'm like, did you do the reading or not? I want to talk about Mary Shelley, but not I have to do 12 minutes of, like,
There's
prose.
nothing worse, though, when I start telling a story and someone's like, oh, yeah, I heard that on the podcast. And I'm like, okay, well.
Good. Okay, so you know it's funny. Tell the others. As I was saying, I'll accept your apology. Thank you. Okay, and then moving on. Back to the sad paragraph. With the help of her psychotherapist, she would later begin to put together a narrative of the moments she had blanked out on. Quote, I remember arriving at a big railway station, she recalled, eventually, and being surprised to learn that it was Waterloo. It is strange. The railway authorities did not recall me, which I assume they mean like pull her aside.
Yeah.
Did not recall me, as I was covered with mud and had smeared blood on my face from a cut on my hand.
Jesus.
Here is what you need to know about what happened the night she was driving. She admitted that when she was driving earlier that week, she had thought about swerving off the road and just driving off the cliff. Decided not to because her daughter was in the car with her.
Oh, yeah.
And so that night, I don't know if she left with the intention of doing that, but I think she just kind of left.
Yeah.
And then I think either in a disassociative state passed out at the wheel or intentionally swerved. That is kind of hard. But the car accident physically kind of roughs her up a little bit.
It like actually happened. Like she did not
right, 100%.
fake that.
The accident happens and probably leads to at least some form of traumatic brain injury. Potentially a concussion that doesn't get solved. And then she stumbles out. It's the middle of the night. She's dark. She walks. She wanders. Gets to a train station. And I think just in her state kind of takes off. This is then what gets said next. Christie's mind, now under multiple threats, begins to protect her and itself from further pain by inventing a new identity. Quote, I had now become, in my mind, Teresa Neal of South Africa, someone who had the same surname as Archie's lover and someone who came from a place where she and Archie had been very happy. Quote, and this is, I think, from Agatha Christie herself, you can't write your own faith. However, you can do what you like with the characters you create. So, her brain created a character new for herself, a character which would protect her from what was going on.
And a character that like her husband was still in love with, theoretically.
Correct. Her brain pulled material that made sense, but fashioned a new identity to protect her. And honestly, it sounds like her brain went back to a place that it felt safe, which was being loved by her husband, but then had a connection. If Agatha Christie doesn't exist, who is her husband in love with? Teresa Neal. Nancy Neal, but
Teresa Neal.
Mrs. Neal.
Yeah. What I want to know is how much of that story is truth or how much of that is like PR spin, because that is very beautifully written. But part of me is like, she's also a genius writer.
Sure.
So she's not capable of coming up with that on her own.
Right.
And so like I do believe she had that like head trauma, but part of me is like I think maybe she maybe kind of knew what she was doing.
Okay, interesting. I don't know where I fall.
Yeah.
There are parts of the story still where because like the getting from the car accident to a train station, did you do that on your own? Did someone come and help you? Did that person then not say anything or bring you to like medical professionals? I don't know truthfully how long that walk would have been to a train station or anything like that. When she's at the spa,
does she eventually come to and then write that letter to her brother-in-law?
No. So those letters were written before she runs away.
So her brother-in-law knew she was going to be at a spa before she left?
apparently a spa in Yorkshire, which maybe is where she was trying to drive to the night of the accident happened.
And she ends up at that spa.
Listen, that story, that doesn't get connected from people who are trying to connect it. And if she is trying to connect dots in the postscript, isn't a dot she herself connects. Because saying, I was trying to go to a spa in Yorkshire, I left my brother-in-law a note, I got into a car accident and still managed to get myself up there, is like partially helpful, but that isn't, at least from what I can tell. And the biographer that I'm now reading from, who wrote for The Guardian, is absolutely a Christie defender as to what's going on. And so somehow or another, Christie's brain gets her to the Hydro in the town of Harrogate in northern England. Customers there are called patients because it's a spa and it's the 1920s.
Yeah, now that's a rehab.
Health. No, but here's the thing. It truly is just like, hi and welcome. We have this newfangled thing called a swimming pool. So come on down in your swimming dress and jump into it. You know, it's like one of those crazy 1920s health spas where they're like, we've found people who wash their hands don't die. Don't know why, but welcome to our health spa. You know, like they're just kind of experimenting with stuff like this, right? When I was reading about it, it felt like the kind of place that would serve a simple meal because it's good for your digestion. Yeah. And would be really interested, if not fully bought in, on Sylvester Graham's legacy.
This graham cracker will take the lust right out of your husband.
It's so fun how much of a little world we've created in the 1920s in this podcast.
Because we keep doing stuff around that time.
We're like, do you know what's crazy, friends? 100 years ago. Let's talk about that. Do you know what's also kind of crazy? My grandmother is almost 100. So this is still within living memory. Yeah, she's like 96, 97.
Holy cow.
Yeah, I know. Last living grandparent, but glad to have those genes in me. Anyways, so she arrives at the Hydro in Herringbah, and she has a blast as Tressa Nelson. She goes shopping. She eats in the dining room every night. She's not trying to lay low by any means. Yeah. Which, I think, if you're trying to invent like an escape, maybe you do. Yeah. She complains repeatedly of headaches, but reads the papers in which she is being like discussed about and does not recognize herself or the story or anything. Someone says one of the every single person who is at the spa when Agatha Christie gets interviewed, and all of them are like, she was a weird girl. She was a weird girl.
Yeah, no shit.
One person said she could dance the Charleston, but not very well.
That's really funny.
She attended like the evening dances.
This just reminds me of John Mulaney. I feel like I talk about John Mulaney's
every
skit
episode,
all the time.
Okay.
But the one where he's like he talks about how he's in rehab and how he thinks it's going to be embarrassing because no one knows him. So he goes the first day and they're like, and what's your name? And he's like, oh, it's John. Because he's not allowed to say last name.
Hi, John.
Yeah. And he like realizes that no one actually knows who he is. And one time he leaves a newspaper out with his face on it. And he's like, who left that there?
What is anyone else reading this right now? Is anyone, I don't want to take it if someone else is reading. Yes.
Just to get people to recognize that it's him.
What I can tell, that is not what she is doing.
I know, but it feels like
she walks into dinner in a new dress with the tags still on the dress. And it's like ungodly expensive. And one person's like, my God, is that all you're worth? And she goes, I hope it's not all that I'm worth. I think I'm worth a lot more than this. Like, boss queen.
All right, yeah.
How Agatha got her groove back.
I do love that for her.
Like, other people were basically like, I met her once, didn't care for her. Like, everyone was like far too whimsical and detached. Like, everyone's...
And that's who I strive to be.
And then eventually some of the hotel staff are like, who is this weird woman? And why
can't chance the Charleston.
Exactly. And why does she look like that missing novelist? So that is actually ultimately how she gets found.
That's
hotel
hilarious.
Staff go to the police in Harrowdale, or whatever the town is called. I'm sorry to be rude.
So it's
Harrogate,
not in
excuse me.
Yorkshire.
Harrogate is a town in Yorkshire.
Oh, okay.
Yorkshire
right.
is like the province, and York is, I think, it's like a town itself.
Okay.
It's like New York. They're like, hey, we think Agatha Christie is staying at the hotel, not using her own name. And the police are like, well, let's go check it out. And they're like, yep, that's Agatha Christie. And so they get her husband up here, and he is like, sweetie. And she's like, who are you?
Oh, no.
She's not like, well, the gig is up. She's just like, hi. My name's Tressa Neal. And he's like, shh, 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 shh. Where on earth did you get that name from? Oh, also, a small detail that I hadn't said at the start of the story because I didn't want to reveal too much.
Yeah.
Archie, when Agatha goes missing, Archie's on just like a little weekend trip with friends that includes Nancy Neal.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
If she was doing it intentionally, which I don't think she was doing, but if she was, I'm glad she ruined his romantic getaway.
Oh, beautiful.
Like, she is either the victim of a terrible set of circumstances, had a mental break, which I think we all understand,
totally
especially post-COVID.
Yeah.
Or just was like, I'm so much smarter than you, dumb airboy. I'm gonna ruin your I'm gonna ruin your life. Remember how like
and no one will even know.
Remember how like 2 months ago you were like, oh my God, Grant, could you ever imagine your breakup being that public? Yeah.
You won't show me the poetry on your notes app, so I can't believe you. Sorry, not sorry.
Here's a real... There's more about Agatha Christie. If you guys are like, what the fuck is going on in this story right now? We're getting to it, I promise.
It's just a bunch of silly little bits.
One of the reasons why I will not show you... I can't actually... I need to look at your face when I say this. One of the reasons why I won't show you the poetry about on my phone is because it's about you... No, I'm kidding. I'm so kidding. We all know I have an ego that would never do that. I won't show it to you because I think it's good. Which is my delusion.
I'll be a mean gay back to you. Yeah.
I know it's not good at a level that I don't talk to, and that is also why I won't show it to anybody.
The best part about it for me is that Tyler knew about it.
No. I made one story reference to Tyler. I think I even said, and then after that really moving moment I had on a hike, I like wrote a poem about it on my phone. And now Tyler's like, oh, you're gonna write a little song about it on your phone, Grant? Legitimately, because I don't think he's gonna hear this for a month or two.
Oh yeah, it'll be a while.
I stopped telling him secrets. I was like, well, if that's how you're gonna treat him.
Then you don't get any of them.
Exactly. I'm certainly not going to stop writing poetry in the notes app. So it was. Me and Agatha Christie have so much in common. Okay. Did not recognize herself in the paper. Meanwhile, Archie, stressed and terrified that his infidelity was going to be wrapped up in the newspaper.
What? Because your wife used your mistress's last name? If she didn't do this on purpose, that's fucking hilarious. That just, her brain was like, Neil?
Neele. Untraditional spelling, I know, but just, that's my name. That's my name. So Archie, clearly like back against the wall.
Yeah.
Because two things are going to happen to him. His wife's actually dead, and he's going to jail for her murder. Or his wife's not dead, and his infidelity is going to become public knowledge. He's trying to really thread a needle. He is the villain, but the situation he's in is quite comical. And so this is then where the damage really to her reputation
like Alexander Hamilton, who's going to write a pamphlet about how he cheated on his wife.
A little bit. He goes to the Daily Mail.
Stop. Why are men like this?
We have never changed once ever, and it's dumb to think we will. Quote me on it. We have never changed ever, comma, it's dumb to think we will.
I made that as a joke. I didn't think he was going to do it.
Oh, what? A series of historical men vaguely connected to the military? Follow the exact
They're like,
same
well, I
playbook.
must tell the public.
So he goes to the Daily Mail, and this is now a direct quote from Archie Christie. My wife had discussed the possibility of disappearing at will. Engineering a disappearance had been running through her mind, probably for the purpose of her work. Personally, I feel like that is what happened. So Archie is going to the newspaper, and he goes, I want you guys to know that I think my wife is faking it, but strictly for professional reasons, and do not look into anything else.
Okay, so he wasn't like, I cheated on her.
No, he was like, I think she's doing a little bit right now, and I think it's to help her writing. Not the, I think my infidelity and the death of her mother that I did not support her through has led her to run away from her entire life. This is my friend Nancy. We're getting lunch later.
Men will do anything but go to therapy.
Men will literally ruin the reputation of the world's best-selling author before they go to therapy.
Oh my God.
Also, the quote I pulled from the article goes, my wife, said Archibald Christie. But I was like,
my wife.
And then the quote continued.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what I'm trying to say is the way it was written, they sourced the quote in the middle of the
Yeah,
sentence
yeah.
because, of course, they got tired of repetition, whatever. I get, but it meant that I had to skip over that part, and there was a small little pause, and I just went, my wife,
Oh, God.
like from Borat. And that is actually, I'm 30 years old. I have worked through so much of my own internalized homophobia. The one part about being gay that I cannot get over is that there will never actually be a time where I'll be able to
Where
go,
you can-
my wife. That's my cross to bear.
You need
It gets better except for that. I want you to know that.
I feel like every time I go
What
over
does
to my friend Kelsey and Edgar's house, Edgar at some point goes, my wife. And that
It's so funny.
just surfaced in my brain.
What does Eastern European liqueur do to us? Because this is the most
I don't know, this is
deranged
great.
episode ever. Also, it really is fun pulling in historical clips. I've been seeing you do that a couple times, and I was like, I'm going to try that this time.
Oh, okay.
So he goes, personally, I feel like that's what happened. But maybe he like kind of oversold it a little bit, because then like the next day he had another quote. It is absolutely untrue to suggest that there was anything in the nature of a fight or a tiff between me and my wife on Friday morning. I strongly depreciate introducing any tittle-tattle into this matter. The next day he's like, no, we weren't fighting. I love her. Which is why I wasn't there when she left.
There's not a single thing that this person is doing that make me think he did not try to kill his wife.
We know she's alive, and we're like, did you kill your wife? Like, we know she's just dancing poorly in Yorkshire. And I'm like, you fucking killed her, didn't you?
Especially because he's the one that went to the Daily Mail and was like, I think she's faking it. And they were like, why would you think that? He's like, we weren't fighting.
I think you should leave dressed in a hot dog. We all want to know who did this.
Who did this?
We all-
You're literally dressed like a hot dog.
You literally sound like you murdered her. Okay.
Oh my God.
So while readers thought it was weird that he was pushing it that hard, unfortunately, it did help kind of foment in the postscript that that's what Christie's reputation was. That she did it as a publicity stunt, and not because she was having a psychotic break, which is like kind of medically documented now. That essentially... she is at the peak of her career and then immediately the lowest point she's ever been in her life. And that kind of stress and lack of support from a person she loved sends her into delusion. That's the actual story. But the male copyright editors, the male journalist, and her husband wrote a different narrative.
Story for her.
And then for years, some of the main biographers of Agatha Christie were also men who then remove any of this like womanly emotion, like love and grieving over your parents, and we're like, she's a fraud, but damn, can she write?
Damn, she has a good PR person.
Exactly.
Like, goddamn.
Yeah, so unfortunately for Christie's lasting reputation, many of her biographers, notably her male ones, have been heavily invested in this narrative as the male police officers and journalists who made it into such a sensation at the time. Quote, she set out deliberately, the facts shout it, to throw murder suspicion onto her husband, says one of the writers at the time. It's time to do something radical, to listen to what Agatha Christie actually said, to understand that she had a range of experiences, unhelpfully labeled as, quote, a loss of memory, and perhaps, and most importantly, when she says she was suffering,
Believe her.
to believe her.
But it like
Now we're into final thoughts and feels. And I have like 8 bullet points.
it really sells it for me when like the police come to get her and she wasn't like, okay,
Yes.
you know.
And she was like, "What? Who is
are
Agatha
you?"
Christie? Did
Yeah.
you find that poor woman in the newspaper?"
Yeah.
Yeah, girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. Where?
Right in front of me.
Yeah, 100%.
Because I feel like there is a chance. There's part of me that still wonders if there, like, she did get into that. I don't think it was a PR stunt. I think there is a chance that she got into the crash, experienced some like severe trauma, at some point came to, and then decided like, I'm gonna continue with this, which totally get it, by the way. And also, you did a great job.
Yes.
But I think it's more realistic given her reactions that it was like actually.
When she was suffering.
Yeah, like she got a pretty bad concussion or like some sort of like emotional trauma too, combined with that.
I'm grateful that for Agatha, and this is kind of different than for Mary, but that for Agatha, like her career continued to take off and build and wasn't defined by this like. Now, there's nothing wrong with being defined by a traumatic event that happens to you. Everyone responds to the stuff that's happened to you. But Agatha lives this like really beautiful and happy life after this incident. So this incident happens in 1926. I'm going to read off to you the dates of when her top 10 best-selling books were published. So starting from 1, going down to, I'm actually going to do I want to do 8. Okay. Number 1, 1926. Number 2, 1932.
Wait, when did she go missing?
1926.
Okay.
So 1926. 1932, 1934, 1935, 1939, 1943, 1949, 1950.
Yeah, so she just went up
Correct.
From there.
That it wasn't the thing that then ended everything. That she was still such a good writer and a believer, like such a good writer, such a good world builder, that there was enough people who believed that she truly did have a loss of memory, that it didn't fully stunt her career, and that in addition to finding continued career success, she finds the man that she spends the rest of her life with. Yeah.
And it's great too, because I feel like at that point in time, there wasn't really anything like cancel culture. So like, I don't think anyone who was like, well, I think she faked it was going to be like, I'm not going to support her anymore.
Right.
You know? And
but
so that means that they genuinely enjoyed her books.
Right.
And they were supporting her because they liked her writing.
Right.
You know?
I also want to say, I think I'm reacting to this story differently now than I would have 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to get like too serious. I'm not going to. We're going to keep it pretty light. She had a happy story. The pandemic happened when I was 27. And I do not think what I experienced could be called a psychotic break by any means.
Yeah.
But your boy had never hiked a day in his life. And within a year of the pandemic, I had climbed a 14er.
Yeah.
And you do not have like a radical change in your lifestyle that way without like a radical catalyst that like kind of does. I mean, like my work and my social life defined me. I had spent much of my early and mid 20s basically kind of moving too fast to notice anything. And then everything halted and most of it got stripped away because we were going to follow the quarantine things. And I think, I had a moment where I was like, okay, I actually have no idea who I am. And so I get it now. I get it in a way that I wouldn't have a couple years ago.
That's fair.
And I'm also reminded a little bit, I'm going to share the text message. I'm not going to read it out, but I'm just going to give a headline. We had a listener email us today. A really sweet message about dealing with their own anxiety and that they kind of overcame their own anxiety to email us and to let us know that they appreciated the like situation and the environment that we had created. I'm not going to read your name because we didn't get permission to do that beforehand. But yeah, I think I've gotten older and I'm like, the idea of my entire life crumbling and then me checking out for a little bit actually feels
great.
Yeah, both having just come back from Europe, both feels great and is so much more relatable than I think I would have understood, when I was younger.
Yeah. No notes.
No notes
feels
at
right.
all.
Yeah, I don't know what to add to that.
Going through my last notes to see. If we want to end it here, that's fine. This is like a nice little pause in case we do, but I do have one more thing that I think is really interesting. If it was a PR stunt, I think back to kind of maybe our modern version, our Newy Times version of Agatha Christie PR stunt, the Kardashians. Now, I teach high school boys, which means I'm like weirdly at times called upon to defend people like the Kardashians. Because the boys are just like, what if I said misogyny but attached like a woman's name to it that like not a lot of people like? That's fine, right?
No.
And I'm like, no, that's like not fine at all. And they're like, but come on, mister, like she doesn't have any talent or anything. And I go,
oh God.
Okay, so you are not like a famous singer, actress, or athlete, and you made your family into like the most recognizable family in America, and you think you don't have any talent to that?
Yeah.
Like you can disagree morally with maybe some of like the ways they did it, or you can be at times kind of like over their whole show that it is, but like you gotta give it up that they know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
And that is if men were doing that, they'd be like rewarded for being masters of the media.
Yeah.
Because women are doing it, they're like Cleopatra, Medusa, Agatha Christie, all rolled up into one.
Yeah. Gross.
And so that is my report. That's my little book report.
The book report.
On the losing
That's crazy.
and then finding of Agatha Christie.
By Grant Thomas.
Thank you. Is it show and tell next? Do we transition to show and tell?
Yeah,
is
this is the Stein that I bought.
I was making a school joke, but this is good. Okay.
When I was drunk in Munich, I bought the Mama Bear, Papa Bear, and Baby Bear of Stein's. It's not out
the
now.
fleshy nesting doll of
Yeah,
Stein's.
for those of you listening, Grant has a big Stein. I have it's like a skinny, it's the same height, but it's skinnier. And then I also bought a shot glass Stein. And so I opened them all the next morning and was like, wow. I literally bought the Goldilocks of Steins.
This was frivolous but wonderful. Also, I have a big Stein. I mean, I think I kind of almost like twice the size of this.
Yeah.
And then I have just like this really beautiful, it's like a slightly larger teacup. It feels like a coffee cup. And it's white and it's red and it has like a stag on it.
It looks like a
print.
sweater pattern, kind of.
And we came back from Prague with art. We had just absolutely like a classic Euro trip. I'm in classic 9 and they're I'm 22 and I'm finding myself before I start my job at ExxonMobil. I mean,
because those are good too.
Sure. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, my brother did it, but whatever. Love you,
this
Griffin.
one, we're established. We have a full income.
Yes. When I say classic, I mean we were gonna sail back on the Titanic.
Yes,
kind of classic.
yes. Like we're gonna take a lot of afternoon siestas because it's too hot outside.
You know when Meryl Streep's character is in Paris during Little Women? That's what we did.
That's how it felt. It was great. We bought art, bought mugs, drank a lot.
Time.
Yeah. Anyway.
And then came back and actually managed to record an episode. So lucky us. Proud of us.
Yeah.
And thanks for tuning in. Hopefully this was enjoyable. We laughed a lot.
Yeah, that was good.
Good. Oh, hold on.
I was gonna wait for you to do it.
Sorry if that was gross. Find us on social media. We are Well I Laughed on both TikTok and Instagram.
And Facebook.
You can and
YouTube.
I forget that we have Facebook. YouTube's great. You can find us on Patreon at Well I Laughed Podcast, and you can email us at welilaughedpod@gmail.com. And we regularly will send screenshots to each other of the sweet messages we get. So if you want to, in some ghostly way, be in Maia and I's group chat. Just send
not
a
even
message.
a group chat.
It's us. It's
us and all our alternative personalities.
It's us. It's a group chat.
Just a chat.
It's just a text. That's so good. Anyways, that's welilaughedpod@gmail.com.
Okay,
bye.
Okay, bye.